The silencer phones. We don't need anybody ringing during the meeting. Thank you, everyone. This is the March 21st, 2023 meeting for the Goffstown Sewer Commission. Our meeting was postponed from last Tuesday because of the snowstorm and the fact that we could not remain ADA compliant for our meeting. There was no one available to keep the parking lot clean, so we moved the meeting till tonight, so that's why we're having it tonight. We'll begin with our roll call. Lynn?
Lynn Pooler, Sewer Secretary.
Dave Pierce, Commissioner.
Tim Redmond, Commissioner.
Dan Taylor, Commissioner.
Jim Craig, Select Board Rep.
On the side over here, right?
Michael
You're
Trank.
part of us.
Consulting engineer. That's okay.
Thank you both. And Danielle?
Danielle Basura, Finance Director, Assistant Town Administrator.
Thank you, Danielle. First item on our agenda, as always, is public comment. At this point, we'll open the floor for public comment. Since no one is here, we'll close it. Public comment is closed.
Hey. Mr. Chairman, I'm reading the minutes of February 14th, and
Okay.
2 pages, and I make a motion to approve them.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the 14th as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So we have new business. Lynn, you can explain we have it in our packet. I'll have you do a verbal explanation of the letter from 3 Church Street, map
Okay,
34, lot 86.
Okay, the letter from 3 Church Street states that they had a flood on September 5th. It was an accidental water issue in their apartment over the weekend that flooded the apartment and the commercial space below. It caused extensive damage. The apartment has been vacant ever since, and the commercial space has very little activity, just 2 or 3 people. The water issue is causing them to gut the back room. And they are requesting that we consider some type of abatement on their bill since the apartment is not being used and there is not many people using the downstairs.
Okay.
So they have their water turned off. That's what
They
they're
have-
telling us.
I don't believe they do. They have not said that.
So Lynn, you did research on this, and to back up what David's saying, what did you find out about prior requests for abatement of sewer fees?
We have had an abatement in the last, and what that was, it was somebody that was not able to live in their residence due to water damage, and they did have their water turned off by the water department. I was able to verify
I
that.
recall
so
that.
we
It was on
made-
North Mass.
Yeah, so we were able to abate that one.
Thank you. So that just backs up what David asked about, and you found out the water is not off in the apartment.
I don't know for sure. I
Well, they have
to
other
double
people
check
there
that,
now,
but-
the yoga studio is open, so the water is
It's my
definitely on.
assumption the water is not turned off, but I will verify that.
So our past practice has been to consider abatements as long as the water's been shut off, so other commissioners want to speak to the subject.
Lacking any further information, I recommend that the sewer fees remain in place. No abatement.
Would that be in the form of a motion, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Would we want to, if we find out that the water has been turned off, would we
We could discuss it at a subsequent
future.
meeting.
I'll bring it back next meeting. I'll verify.
amend your,
It could be, if it's appropriate, the fee could be retroactive.
We could reconsider any decision we make this evening.
I'd second the motion.
All right, any other discussion on the motion as presented? Okay, all in favor of the motion to deny the request at this time, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The request is denied.
Okay.
All right, Lynn, the next item is the job description for the assistant sewer foreman. What we had here was a situation where we verbally voted to remove the CDL part of the job description. Based on the town finance director's advice, we need to have a motion to the effect before the position can be posted. Is there any other discussion we'd like to have on that, Danielle, from your position?
Only if there were other changes to the job description itself,
Okay.
but yeah, we're good.
David?
Since the individual would not be requiring a CDL, what's the reason that he has to have the ability to attach a snowplow?
Pickup truck. We have 2 pickup trucks with snowplows on both of them.
The CDL would apply to the
If,
larger truck.
CDLs for a commercial vehicle, which we do not have and is not required
Okay.
to operate. In the case of the VACCON, we also get assistance from Goffstown DPW, where they would provide a CDL driver for the VACCON in the event that we needed the VACCON for emergency only, which is our current arrangement with DPW. Daniel?
and he's only plowing our sewer properties, it's not in the,
It doesn't matter if he plow, anywhere he plows, it's not a commercial vehicle, so
Yeah.
you don't need a commercial driver's license. Because if we did help DPW, which is not out of the question, in an emergency, he would not be able to drive a CDL vehicle. He could plow with a pickup or even a 1-ton. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion for the changes to the, what's the correct motion to make here at this time, Danielle?
It looks like this is the updated version, correct, Lynn? So just a motion to accept the revised job description as presented in your.
As presented this evening.
and
Thank you.
at our last meeting, Corey didn't have any further changes.
No, he had no further changes. So I'll ask for a motion from either one of you fellows to move this forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the job description for assistant sewer foreman as presented.
Yes, second it.
Motion's been made and seconded for the assistant sewer foreman job description. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions? So can you post this for us internally, please, and is that who does it?
Yep, do you want to use the same posting that you had before, and you're saying internally, so is the intent to only be internal, or?
I think we should post it internally, because that's always been the town practice, to give town employees first crack at a position.
Mhm.
So we will post it internally for a period of, what would be appropriate, Dave, 7 days? Or 10 days, or what?
Something, 2 weeks, and if it's not answered, then,
Then
We
open
can
it to the
discuss
website?
it. We can go outside after that if we decide to.
then
Okay.
I amend that motion that if there's no responses in 2 weeks, that this is released publicly.
Fine.
I agree.
Okay, so it's not a motion.
Yeah, that wasn't.
It's not a motion, just what
Yeah.
whatever Danielle's normal posting practice would be.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. You posted in the buildings physically, in all our town buildings?
Yes, yep, we do
So
distribute
it
it to all
actually
the
is
departments.
hanging somewhere for people to read.
Right,
Fire, police,
highway,
highway,
everybody.
parks,
Mhm.
library, maybe if the librarian wants to
Yeah.
come over.
Yep, we do, we
Come to
post
work
it
for us?
everywhere.
Does it get emailed
Um,
internally?
Yes, we can email it internally. If it's only an internal posting, we could use email as well.
Well,
That's fine.
you do what is a
Yeah.
normal procedure.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, let's assume we are successful, and in the next 2 weeks, we have
Applicant?
3 or 4 applications.
Yes.
Should we be prepared to have a subcommittee review the applications and make a recommendation to the commission?
Who would the subcommittee be consist of? I think we are the subcommittee. So I would say if
I'm a little bit facetious,
I'm
yes.
thinking that if we have just applications in the next 2 weeks, we would schedule a special meeting to discuss the applications prior to our regularly scheduled meeting.
Isn't that a workshop?
It would have to be a non-public session if you're reviewing applications for hiring,
Okay.
So we publicly noticed a meeting and
You would.
open the meeting.
and then go
go
immediately into
non-public.
non-public, yeah.
Okay, so that would be the procedure. Thank you. So we'll let, now where do the applications go?
They come to my office
They
for
come to
finance.
your office, and you
Mhm.
pass them on to Lynn, and Lynn can
Yeah,
let us know what's going on?
yeah.
That's perfect, thank you. All right, so we are moving forward with our sewer foreman position. All right. Under old business, we have accessibility fee funds, and Danielle wants to speak to us about that. The floor is yours, Danielle.
Okay. What I have for you this evening is I have a whole bunch of documentation that we didn't make copies of. I apologize. I can definitely get that to Lynn if you'd like to read it over. But What we have is the 2022 project for the Elm Street Pump Station. That was funded through normal operating budget. However, it's been brought to our attention through the governmental accounting standards that we have to follow, that we need to use the most restricted funds applicable to a project before we can use the operating funds, because the operating funds would close into your unassigned fund balance if they weren't used. So essentially what we're looking to do at this point is get a motion to allow us to use the applicable accessibility fees that you have, so that way we can essentially reimburse your operating account as of the end of the year, and that will close into fund balance.
So do we have to use all of the accessibility fees for a project, or do we need to break the project out into sections, or is it?
So it depends on the project. In this case, the total cost that was identified and summarized is $313,181.37 that would be applicable. So the request at this point is to use accessibility fees for all of those funds.
For the $313,000?
Right,
Now, the
to
project
reimburse it.
exceeded that, correct, Mike? We have
Yes.
more than that.
Yes.
And those would be then our operating funds would pay for the additional.
Right, and then as the project continues, because it's my understanding that they haven't totally finalized the Elm Street project yet, or is
No.
that one done? No,
No.
okay. So, we would come back, later this year, once we have new numbers or finalized numbers for the next phase or wherever it is in the project, and ask for another motion to reimburse whatever is applicable at that point. The reason being, your accessibility funds that you collect every time somebody connects are considered to be very restricted funds. They can only be used when a project qualifies with an expanding purpose. The pump station, because of its expanded use, qualifies. So where there's no planned projects on the horizon to otherwise expand the system or put in larger pumps or extend lines, we wanted to make sure that we don't miss the opportunity to properly account for the project and to utilize the funds, because when you reimburse your operating, it goes into your capital reserve fund, which you can make a motion on like you do each year. And that would allow you to have those funds available for any other purpose that may come up down the road, whether it's, a project, an emergency, anything, because those funds are unrestricted.
This 313, is this calendar year 22 money
Yes.
that we're, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
so
not
it won't-
going to affect your budget. You were worried about that.
Yeah.
The budget's not even a concern.
Right, it won't
It's
affect
all-
the budget at all, and it's just going to essentially reimburse it to go to that unassigned fund balance. And then your account as it stands now for your accessibilities is just over 1.1 million. So even using this project, you're still gonna have well over $750,000 in that account, continuing to earn interest, plus any additional accessibility fees that are collected, which we are anticipating some sizable ones with current projects that are ongoing.
Now, you made a statement that the money, if it's not used, goes into the you call it the unassigned fund balance, we call it our capital reserve. Or what do we call it, actually? The
Capital reserve, yeah. That's the one
We
where
have
you,
another name for it, I think, it's not coming to me, but anyway, that money does not have a lifespan. It stays in that accessibility account until the time comes to utilize it.
right.
It doesn't expire or anything.
No, nope,
Okay.
it doesn't expire or
Okay.
anything like that.
Okay. Okay,
So
good.
it's just essentially it's locked up and can't be used. So when you have a qualifying project, they say you should be using those most restricted funds first,
So
leaving the flexibility in other accounts.
So you said 313, 181?
Yep, and 37 cents.
So if we do a sewer replacement project, let's say we do Albert Street, we'll use that as an example because that's part of our plan. If that presently has 6-inch sewer lines, if we increase the sewer lines to 8-inch sewer lines, we're increasing the capacity, does that make it a qualifying project? All right.
Yep.
That's good to know, Mike, that's good information.
But if it's a replacement in kind, it wouldn't.
But it's
count.
a replacement in kind, but with a larger
With an
diameter
expansion.
pipe.
Yeah, so
Is
that would
is
qualify.
Would that classify as an expansion, actually?
It
Well,
would, the difference
There could
would.
be in the future, there could be some substantial development in that area requiring an 8-inch pipe.
Well, that
Mike
is-
looks like he's got something to say now. Changed your mind.
Well, the only problem would be is if we have 6-inch pipe below it, we can't use 8-inch pipe.
This is
If where it intersects into the street,
Right.
at the end of Albert Street, if that is a 6-inch line that Albert Street is feeding, 6-inch, we cannot use that.
could.
You could go 8
You'd
to
have to
6.
convert, or,
In this case, because it's existing, you could do that.
Well, what happens if the big project comes along and then they
Then you'd have to.
upgrade the
size.
downstream pipe
Yes.
too? So that's a consideration when we decide
Mhm.
how we're gonna qualify funds.
Mhm.
Okay, good. I just wanna put that out there.
Right, but something like slip lining or whatever wouldn't count,
Yeah,
because that's
That's
just,
sort of, it's the maintenance.
right.
So do we need an affirmative motion on this matter this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
So,
Okay.
Then, Mr. Chair, a motion to, relative to the Elm Street expenses we incurred in 2022, I move that $313,181.37 be taken from the accessibility fee fund and reimburse our operational fund.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Anyone in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Thank you, Danielle, for your
Thank you.
precise explanation. All right, Lynn, you have sent us invoice. What's that about?
It's Cintas and others, I think Danielle wants to speak to this one as well.
Yes, please. So we currently have certain vendors that are somewhat shared across departments. I know we've discussed before recurring charges for things like your IT, Microsoft licensing, cell phone, that sort of thing where the bill comes each month. We're finding that there are more of those types of shared resources than we had originally identified. So we've had a request from DPW and IT to help make the process more efficient for processing the bills, to have a motion for essentially the recurring invoices. Anything that's out of the ordinary would continue to be sent to Lynn for processing, would go before the commission, but those things that stay the same from month to month, Cintas is Corey's uniforms. It's like $16 a month. And what happens right now is they send a weekly invoice. Then at DPW, Kara has to make a photocopy of the whole bill because his pants might be on page 1 and his shirt's on page 4 or whatever. Summarizes at the end that it's $16.81 for sewer, has 4 bills like that, puts a cover sheet, gives it off to Lynn. Lynn has to enter it into her batch, goes through a separate AP batch. Cintas gets the first check for DPW stuff, waits 2, 3, 4 weeks, gets a check from sewer, and then they're like, why can't you just pay us in one check? So we're trying to help make that more efficient for the entering parties on this end, as well as the receiving parties, the vendors. So we're looking to see if the commission would consider allowing like basically approval for those recurring invoices to just flow through finance. It's still both batches, whether it's entered by, DPW or entered by Lynn, have to come through me. I have to verify the account number is correct in the budget. I have to verify that the money is existing. Anything that looks weird, I would take to Lynn immediately, bring to her attention, and put the invoice on hold. But essentially, I see them from both sides. It would just allow it to come on one check.
And do you send Lynn some sort of notification that this is being paid monthly, or is it an annual expense you would notify us?
Well, it would show up in all of her monthly budget reports. So Lynn pulls budget reports and she can see every charge that's hit any account that
Okay.
belongs to sewer. So she'd be able to see those charges and report back.
Right.
Not ever wanting to be on the bad side of your recommendations. It sounds like a wonderful idea.
Check in. You want to make a motion then, Dave?
Then you can improve it, but a motion that our recurring invoicing for items like phones, clothing, is there another subject?
We do
Computers.
computers. We do utilities like your fuel, because that's an internal one.
Fuel, and any
Yeah.
shared expenses
Well, I would
that are
like you
incurred
to
with the
provide us
out-of-town
with a list.
departments,
Yep. we can provide
that
a
the invoices be paid
Internally.
with a single payment, and then internally, the ledgers show that each department.
Okay.
And could you please, like I said, could you please provide the commission with a
Mhm.
list of the invoices that you will be
Yes,
tagging
absolutely.
for these internal payments, and then we'll know.
Yeah, absolutely. I can provide that. And I know for like this, I mentioned the fuel, that's the diesel or the gasoline that they use for the trucks, as well as the postage that Lynn uses, the postage machine. Those are internally allocated and have been for years and years, but I'll put those on the list so you can see that those are ones that don't come to you for signature on a warrant. They just
That's
get processed.
We
a lot
also-
of, a lot of contractors, and then we have shared resources.
We also really need to know that, because when we do our budgeting, we have to be aware of things that are paid that we don't see.
Oh, I'll see it.
Oh,
though. We'll-
yeah. It'll
Oh,
still
well.
be in all the budget reports,
You
definitely.
see it, but you don't give us
I'm
budget
going
reports.
to start giving them to you.
I showed her how to run them, so she's going to be able to start bringing those to the meetings.
All right, so Dave's got a motion, I'll second Dave's motion. Now, all those in favor of the motion, I'll say, any discussion first? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, motion passes.
So you seconded it?
I did. I don't know why I can't second the motion, doesn't,
You can.
I can make them, but I just let Dave do them, because he does a good job.
You have to earn my pick.
So we have, next line item here is Albert Street, and Mike's name is after it. Mike, do you have anything to report on Albert Street at this time?
No,
Okay, that's a quick one.
I don't have a contract, so I don't have anything to report.
Well, this for me is a problem, because I thought we had a verbal agreement that you were gonna get started, and if you didn't have one, we should have had one a long time ago.
We have that for the review of the proposed development on Mass Road.
Right, but haven't we been talking about Albert Street for the last 3 months?
Right.
You were working with Corey to get
Yeah,
information?
but there was no authorization to proceed that I'm
Well, I
aware of.
think maybe, I'm gonna be curt, I would have thought you would have brought it to us and said, look, we can't get started until we have a proposal.
Well, I wasn't sure what the status of the contract
Status is we
was.
wanna get going,
Yeah.
and I've been
Well,
pestering you to get going.
I understand that, but
So have you received the amendment to contract or the contract?
This is for the Hadley Falls condo sewer review project here, which we're trying to talk about. But I do not have a contract from Mike to begin the actual work on Albert Street. So Mike, could you please address that for us and get it to
I
Lynn?
did send one for
Okay.
the February meeting.
Did you receive it, Lynn?
Sure.
I probably brought it to the February meeting.
Well, I think we would have signed it if it was here.
Is
Well,
there-
no, we didn't sign anything because we weren't sure
Right.
So we have
what
There was a-
was, it was a
issue.
question about him being able to
No,
Could-
that's what it
could
was.
we
do
have-
it.
Could
That's
we
what it
have
was.
that?
I apologize, you're right, Mike, because we wanted you to clear with Danielle that
And we
you
did
could,
speak, yeah.
that you could be the vendor without going through an RFP. So my apologies, Mike.
So
Um,
if that document's available upstairs, could we expedite it by having Lynn?
I have 3 originals of the contract.
Could you send them over to me and I will sign them right now?
And I updated the signature page to, for the effective date of the agreement to be March 21st rather than February 14th.
And we will, we'll have to have a motion for the chair to sign these.
Let's look
Right.
at, I want to look at the
Yeah, I can look
document.
at it, fine.
Can you make a motion to
These are the
select the vendor
originals.
as well?
To select,
Yeah, to waive the
This is the
purchasing
signature
policy, the
page, which
RFP,
I
and
extracted
continue
from
with the
those.
vendor who has extensive experience on the system. We will need, yes, an I-9 to set him up as a vendor under the new name. Because right now we have it set up under the oil standard.
So the motion needs to state clearly what, Danielle?
I've got it.
I'm not gonna read it because I don't have to, I trust you.
Great,
See,
man.
your numbers are on the back page, that's all that matters. Everything else in between is just normal talk.
I did send a statement of qualifications package to
To
um,
Lynn.
Lynn and Corey. I don't know if that was forwarded on or not.
So if and when we sign these, Mike, one goes to us and two go to you, or what's the deal here?
There's
There's
3
three
originals there, I just need one,
Well, I'll give you two back, and we'll just keep one for the record when the time comes.
if you want to keep 2 originals, that's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah, if you want, we can hold one in finance and one in sewer.
There you go.
Yeah,
What exists in both.
sure.
So you have the signature page for this, right? Okay.
So we have to do the first motion first before we do anything, Dave.
On the waiving.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And we've received an agreement for professional services relative to what we're going to call Elbert Street sewer replacement from a single vendor. And I wish to waive the purchasing agreement, because this is a single vendor being considered, and the reasons are because he's qualified through many previous contracts with our department and knows our system.
Is that correctly stated?
Mhm.
Thank you, to your satisfaction? Okay. So there's a motion to waive the purchasing policy regarding hiring the engineering vendor.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
Can you
So-
just state the vendor name?
The vendor's
Yes.
name is, go ahead, David, you made the
Yes,
motion.
motion to accept it, right?
We have to add his name to the motion.
Motion to waive the purchasing agreement to hire.
Then, yes, waive the purchasing agreement, and the vendor is Michael A. Trank, professional engineer,
PLLC.
PLLC.
FPLLC.
So that was part of the motion. Let's get that right. Okay, so now we have an agreement between the Sewer Commission and Michael A. Trank, PE, PLLC to consider. We received copies this evening, and commissioners have all had a chance to look at them. Does anybody have any questions for Michael before anything happens here?
Well, Michael, we just got discussing accessibility fee projects. This is, we're replacing an 8-inch line with an 8-inch line, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it says, so
It's fine.
it's normal
Just normal maintenance.
operation.
So we might not be able to use the accessibility fees for this project.
Just a comment on that.
Go ahead.
In our accessibility fee report, the latest one, when we went through the methodology used to derive the recommended accessibility fee amounts, what we looked at was not just expansion, but replacement as well, because all of your sewer assets have a finite life. For example, the design life of a pump station is 20 years, pipe is typically 50 years. So replacement of those assets is a
Something
valid...
that hasn't reached its useful life.
Yes, and that's a valid part of the accessibility fee, because those assets, in order to maintain your system or keep your system, let me rephrase that, in order to maintain the capacity of your system, those assets need to be periodically
Those are
replaced.
important words for you to put in the minutes, please.
Yeah, so he's saying, what you're saying is that this should qualify for accessibility fee funds.
Because it's a replacement of an asset, I think so.
Listen to the tape.
Yeah, I will, I do. when I-
So how do you view that, Danielle?
It's different than our understanding of the accessibility fees, but what I caught out of that was that you said it's specifically cited in the accessibility fee, analysis.
Yes.
And, okay,
Yeah,
so
that was brought up or stated in the
So
methodology.
that's an existing document? that
yeah, we would need a copy of that in order to
Sure.
be able to support that as
Sure.
part of the audit, that the project qualifies.
Well, we'll submit the document to you for
Mhm.
consideration. Because we're a long way from paying for the project. We have plenty of time to,
Right.
For
Are
you
you gonna
to
be able to
review the
send that to me,
documents and make
Mike, or
sure it
should I
meets
go
the
looking
state.
through the accessibility fee to find that?
Is it part of
you
the
two
user
work that
fee?
out.
I think you have it electronically.
I have the accessibility fees. I'll see if I can find that statement in there.
Okay.
If not, Mike can identify it for you and
Yeah.
send it to you.
Yeah, just give me a
Okay.
call.
So you're saying for total replacement, essentially, so? it
Yeah,
would- it
because,
would-
as I said, the assets have a useful life.
Mhm.
So I guess the understanding is, how the recognition is that these assets do periodically have to be replaced.
If there was a break in the line, tree root being removed and broke a whole section, that's annual maintenance.
Right, exactly.
But he's talking about entire line
Mhm.
that has reached its useful life.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we'll
That's
definitely. look
it's
into
all
that.
debatable.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Because I would debate that there's nothing wrong with the line, except that it's not level right now. It's got imperfections in it. If it wasn't level, if it was level, it would still be functioning. So if we're going to put PVC pipe in to level the line between structures, as opposed to clay tile, which deflects out over time, then, I don't know, we'll debate this about what funding we're gonna use when the time comes.
Yeah, as far as Elmer Street goes, I thought there were some
As long as it's clearly stated in.
deficiencies identified from the TV inspection.
Right. We'll go over that one time.
Yeah,
Okay. So, gentlemen, we have this document from Mike Trank. Does anybody have any questions about the Albert Street sewer replacement project agreement between the owner and the engineer? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion.
A motion to enter into an agreement with Michael A. Trank, PEP LLC engineer, for work being described in a professional services contract for the amount of $11,760,
And authorization to sign contract.
and authorize our chair to sign the contract.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the agreement between the owner and engineer and to allow the chair to sign the documents authorizing as such agreement. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
So Mike, soon there'll be an RFP on the street, right?
We've got to get started on the work.
to answer your original question, I have obtained quotes for the survey work, and I have a surveyor that I want to use
That's
lined
the-
up.
That's the first step of.
So now that I have a signed contract, I can sign the contract with the surveyor, send them, their retainer, and get that going.
Good.
So I'll get a schedule from them.
Excellent.
Thank you.
When do you have-
Okay, we also have,
This is all the fees. These are-
This is just the signature page.
that's just a signature page. You want the whole thing? There you go.
Yeah, you want me to reassemble those?
No, she can handle it. You'll have to copy that for
We only have one copy of
Danielle,
this,
and
right?
you can.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I gave you, right?
3 originals. I'll need one.
Well, I'll
Here's
make you a
one
copy and
original
give it to you.
of signature page.
No, I have one. It's the other pages.
That's signed?
Oh,
Okay.
Actually, I don't actually need those. I can just reprint them.
You're the one who brought it, you must
Yeah.
have them on your computer. Okay, we have another agreement to consider here. We have an agreement request between the Goffstown Sewer Commission and Michael A. Trank, PEP LLC, for engineering review services for the Hadley Station proposed condo sewer review. That is the structural crossing of our sewer line. We discussed this at a prior meeting. What we're going to do is pay Mike to review the construction design by Hadley Station Condos Engineering Develop Company, and then we are going to subsequently through Lynn bill the engineering company from Hadley Station condos for Mike's time, and then they're gonna pay us directly. So that's the agreement. So, seeing that, do we have, does anyone have any questions for Mike on the professional services contract? Mike, did you put in your rates in here or anything like that? It's in here? Okay, that's all I care about, as long as they're in it. So questions for Mike, on this contract from other commissioners?
The analysis of how the sewer line is going to be protected, it is now, it's engineeringly sound.
Yes. Based on your authorization to proceed, I did look at some different alternatives or options for protecting the existing sewer line, you know, sleeving it or or boxing or some other type of options. And basically, after looking at the different options, I think that putting the concrete slab over on the road surface is probably your best
So
option.
a slab acting as the road surface is sufficient, and a more dramatic project of putting foundations in for the slab aren't needed.
No, in my comments, I don't know if that email went to the commission.
I forwarded them pretty much everything if their name wasn't on it.
So I provided basically 7 review comments back to the Dubé Group, the engineer for the developer. The first comment was that after looking at some potential options, I do think that the concrete slab pavement is the best option. And my second comment was that that concrete slab should be designed in accordance with AASHTO, which is the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, design standards for H20 loading. I noted that the pavement slab should be reinforced at least in the bottom part of the slab to resist tensile forces from traffic loading, but overall, again, it needs to be designed in accordance with AASHTO standards. I also noted that the slab should extend a minimum of 12 inches beyond the sides of the original sewer trench for bearing area, and said that I would assume as a minimum the original trench was 4 feet wide.
But they're proposing a 10-foot slab.
Yeah,
and
and that's
you're gonna
fine.
push for the 10-foot slab?
That's fine.
No, but I don't want them to come back with a 6-foot slab if your recommendation
No,
only requires 12
Yeah.
inches.
Was there a threshold on the distance between the pipe and the bottom of the slab?
No. I did say that based on the discussions at the February meeting, that the sewer commission favors the 10% road slope option because that provides the maximum separation between the road surface and the top of the pipe. So you'll get the protection you need from that.
I think they're also awaiting the fire department's review of the grade, whether the 10% grade would even meet the fire department's requirement.
Okay.
So that we're going to wait on their engineer to make a recommendation. Lynn, I submitted a letter to you to submit to the other commissioners. Did you get feedback on that letter? The letter about the sewer commission requesting a 10% waiver from the planning board, you sent me the letter and then
I never got it back from you.
this is getting ridiculous. It was sent back to your email. I put it there myself.
I didn't
All right,
see
well,
it.
we're gonna have to move quickly on this because the planning board meeting is coming up, so we'll talk about this at our next part of the agenda tonight. That's why I thought it would be in the packet, so now I know why it's not in the
I
packet.
did not see, and you never got
What-
it back.
I'm sorry, Tim, what has to be reviewed?
We discussed a recommendation from the sewer commission that we were gonna recommend to the planning board that they allow the 10% grade so that we could get our maximum cover over the pipe. Lynn put a letter together and sent it to me for review, and I think I changed one or two words, and I wanted it to go back to Lynn to be distributed to you guys for review, so that you can review it.
I'm not concerned about the grade. I'm concerned about the distance between the slab and the pipe,
Well, if,
irrespective of the grade.
well, if the,
So I don't think we ought, this commission ought not be specifying an exact grade. We should be, if the separation is 1.2 feet and is protected by a concrete slab, so many feet plus or minus from the pipe, we're happy.
all right, then I concur with that then. We're not gonna make any recommendations to Lynn. You agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. Done.
Okay, forget the letter.
Forget the letter. So, we need
Mr. Chairman?
to authorize.
Wait a minute.
He's,
Go ahead, Mike.
Just to complete, the comments that I sent back to the engineer, I also noted, based on the discussions at the February meeting, that in lieu of rerouting the rail trail, as they were showing, that the preference of the sewer commission would be to slope the grade of the rail trail to meet the revised roadway surface.
Sewer
So
Commission
that
makes
the-
no recommendation on the rail trail.
Yeah,
we're, once again, the same point I just made. We should not be limiting other factors in the design.
okay.
We're only concerned about the vertical protection of the pipe.
Dave will handle the rail trail on his own,
Yeah.
outside of the meeting.
I just thought it was worth mentioning that to them.
Well, that's fine that you mentioned it, but we have no reason to make any recommendations on rail trail grades.
Yeah.
The only thing that I thought we discussed was that if we did recommend the 10% and they accepted it, that it would make the transition from the rail trail to the concrete slab less
Mhm.
steep. That's the only thing we talked about.
Right.
But we made no actual recommendation on the rail trails. Because they can regrade, they can do whatever they can do. That's up to them and the rail trail committee to handle. Okay, anything else, Mike?
Not on that.
Okay, so we need to agree to have Mike has, by my request, Mike has already done all the legwork to this developer, and we haven't signed his contract yet, because it was going to be holding up the planning board meeting and everything else, and they didn't want us to be the ones that were holding them up,
What's the
so.
dollar amount?
$1,400. $1,400 for total professional engineering expenses for the review of this project, which we are going to get reimbursed by the developer.
Then, motion to authorize Mike Trank, professional engineer, to, in the amount of $1,400 for services he rendered to do an engineer review of protection of the Hadley Station residential development, protection of the shoreline.
And we will then be billing that.
And then that we should then also bill the developer for that amount.
Yes. Motion been made to accept the terms with the engineer and to bill the developer for that amount.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, other business as warranted. I have one item. Does anybody else have
He's
anything?
still on the same subject.
You still talking, Mike?
Yeah,
I thought we got rid of you.
Not yet.
Okay.
I did revise the signature page for the Hadley development contract for the effective date of the agreement to be March 21st instead of March 14th.
Well, then give me the
Technicality.
other one back then, because I'm not giving you one with the wrong date
Yeah, I don't need this
in it.
either.
Destroy that. Give that to Lynn with one of these signature pages.
I need this back. This one, right? The
No,
No?
no,
Thank you, Mike, for
This is-
quickly
this is one
taking care of
says-
that issue.
on
Okay,
it, March
so,
21st at the top.
Is that the
Right here.
contract, Mike, just to pass it back to me?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's page
That's
7
Hadley
of
Falls right
the
there?
other one,
Is this
of
Hadley?
Albert Street.
Oh, I never got that. I didn't get
Okay, there you
a copy
go.
of that one.
Okay.
That right there is
Okay, here's Hadley Falls with a signature page
Okay.
for the
I
record.
didn't get that, okay,
That's
thank
what I
you.
have, yeah. And then, do you have the Albert Street, the first 1 to 6 pages there, Lynn? I think that's what they
This
passed
right
over.
here,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the signature page that goes with
Yeah.
that.
Didn't we just pay Sherbon last month in February?
Yes, but
Yes.
it was an older, it was the last one.
Yeah, that was
22.
billing through November.
Yeah.
So, could you explain why we're paying him again for another 151,000, Mike?
That's work from January 1st through the end of February.
What did they do?
Actually, December, because the other one was through November.
Well, but they didn't really do any work
They didn't do
to
anything in
speak of
December.
in December, so.
Okay.
I saw their truck there this week.
Yeah, they finished the roofing, they installed FRP, well, they installed insulation in the walls inside, they installed FRP, fiberglass reinforced panels inside. They delivered a bunch of equipment, they've
Oh,
put
some of the
in
stuff that was in,
a lot of electrical work. They, have the siding on the building, so.
so in your professional estimation, is the 151,000,
Yeah, I
754.95
reviewed-
request?
Yeah, I reviewed their payment application in detail. They have a spreadsheet attached to it, and I went through all of the items, and yes, I'm satisfied with the.
Okay, so it's your
what they-
recommendation that to pay this?
Yes,
And this is the last bill, right?
no,
No, they're not done yet.
yeah, in their draft payment application,
Oh, sure,
they
on
had
Street,
omitted retainage,
Virginia.
Yeah.
and so I sent it back to them marked up, so they,
So how much are we gonna owe them on the contract after this payment?
I think it's right on that top right.
yeah, it's on the front
It's on the
page.
summary front page, top right usually, or bottom left.
Payment due,
The
150
balance, yeah,
Payment due 151?
yes.
And then balance.
Balance to completion is 165,000.
Okay, so they're not getting too much upfront money out of us, that's all I'm concerned.
No. No, they're being paid for what they've completed.
Fine, okay.
Motion to, what? Yeah,
Well, Daniel's gotta see
I
it too.
tried.
I'm not gonna take a motion unless Daniel has.
The
a chance to look at it.
151 value, yeah.
Take your time and look at it, Daniel, we are not in a hurry. And you're gonna review this change order that we got ahead of ourselves on, and you'll. make a
I've already
recommendation.
looked through it. I just need to prepare the change order document that we use.
Okay, well, we'll handle that at our
Our
next meeting.
contract
You owe me two
form,
documents.
so I'll
Yes, I
get
know,
that
I
over
have
to you
those.
for the next meeting.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $151,754.95 to Sherbon Consolidated Inc. for work completed today on the Goffstown Elm Street wastewater pump station improvement project,
And would you please note that it is to come from the accessibility funds account?
which will, funds will be,
Drawn from.
will be withdrawn from the accessibility. Okay, the account.
Thank you for that. I saw Danielle nodding and I wanted to get that in. All right, so
Second.
motion's been made and
Second,
seconded
yeah.
to approve the payment from our accessibility fee account. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions? Who gets to sign copy? Lynn?
Because then I will
You-
pay it and you guys will sign the warrant as I pay it.
Anybody have anything else? Because I have one item for the other business before we conclude tonight. Nobody has anything? Okay, outdoor dining sewer use fees. We're gonna have to make a decision this summer because we allowed this all to continue over the last 2-3 years because of the pandemic and how restaurants had a hard time and everything going on, but we need to make a decision on what are we gonna do with outdoor dining. We are gonna either increase sewer use fees to the restaurants that have outdoor dining with a table count and an appropriate amount for their sewer use fees, or we're not gonna do anything at all. So We need to have some thought on this, and at our next monthly meeting, would you please have it as an agenda item?
Yep.
And we will discuss it, what our intention to do with the sewer use fees for outdoor dining at our local restaurants.
Just a comment as
Please.
she gathers data. Is this relative to an expansion of inside, or is it in lieu of inside seating?
It went outside when people couldn't sit inside the
So
restaurants
in that case, it was a swamping of
at that time.
table space.
And we just said, look, we know you people are hurting. We even abated people's sewer use fees with a form they could fill out to have their sewer use fees abated during the pandemic time because they had no businesses. Now we've come to the point where outdoor dining has become the norm, and it should be considered an expansion of the seating in the restaurant because they can't say just because it's outside it's not an expansion. All the dishes and food is prepared, dishes have to be washed. Sewer fees are going to need to be adjusted for the additional tables, which is how the count for sewer use fees is conducted in restaurants. It's got to do with staffing and it's got to do with the number of tables available.
At what point does the increased seating capacity of a restaurant go before the planning board?
That's another subject, I don't know about that. But I'm not gonna go there because that's another subject.
Yeah.
But I do know that we have been kicking this can down the road for over a year, and we are going to make a decision one way or the other in the upcoming meeting so that we can properly notify these people during the summer of 2023 that there will be a bill coming, a change of their bill will be coming at some point. If we're gonna go to the summer of 2024, fine. If we're gonna do it on the second, we can't do it on the second billing in 23 because it's too late already. So we're gonna have to make this a notification for the fiscal year 2024
What do you mean it's too late already?
because
First bill?
we have to give them notice. If we're gonna send them a bill,
We only have to do a 30-day notice.
well, maybe we could have it
So
then
you
for the
could
second
do a
billing.
letter
And
or-
what we had decided before, if we do decide to charge them, is we were going to put the charge in the second
Half,
half.
right.
So they would get billed for it in November to be
Right.
paid in December, because most of the summer months fall in that second half of the year.
But I think I know we've been goodwill a long time now, but I think as a goodwill gesture, I don't think we can flop this on them 3 months from now that they're gonna get billed. I think we should give them fair notice. Personally, I think they should get fair notice so that they have time to plan or to decide they don't want outdoor seating and do whatever they want, but I don't really wanna do it in this short a window. I think it would be better to give everybody plenty of notice. If they want to come into the commission and complain, we give an opportunity to come in and complain or to speak to the commission.
So wait till 2024 is when you're
That's
thinking
my
about.
feeling. The other commissioners can weigh in, obviously. That's how we run things here, but we should take into consideration the vendors as well. It's not a lot of money, but it is money. And we do pay for every drop of water that goes to Manchester. So we have to adjust the bills accordingly if the people continue to have outdoor seating for the upcoming year, following year, I should say. So that's going to be an agenda item for our next meeting, and we will discuss it at the next meeting at length whenever, and if you could post it for us, I'd appreciate it.
I planned on putting that on anyway.
All right, any other business for this commission tonight? All right, we are seeing none. At this time, GTV, we're going to go into non-public. After,
You have to make a
Make a
motion.
motion.
Let
We
me
will.
make a motion.
we will. Everybody, put the brakes on. GTV, we're going to go into non-public. What we will do is when we enter non-public, we'd ask you to stop the recording, and we will come out of non-public, and we will adjourn the meeting without the cameras needing to be on, but it will be in the record. So we'll make the motion to go into non-public now, please.
Mr. Chair, motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A, colon 3, Roman 2A, it deals with compensation.
Motion has been made to go into non-public under the appropriate RSA. Seconded?
Second the motion?
Motion's been seconded. Do we have to have a roll call vote? Roll call vote is required. Commissioner Pierce?
Yes.
Commissioner Redmond, yes. Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Motion passes to go into non-public. Thank you, GTV.